Hey everybody, welcome. This is the introduction to a series that I'm going to be doing on mindfulness of breathing. This was the main meditation practice of the Buddha, who was, by all accounts, a pretty badass meditator, right? Someone who went very deep with his practices. And this was very central for him on his own path. So for me, that's a bit inspiring. But I wanted to begin by posing a question, which is, why do so many people go to substances? Alcohol, drugs of a million different sorts, right? What is the main drive there? And one of the main things that I hear, and I have found for myself in the past, is a reduction of self-consciousness. If I'm going to a bar or to a party and I'm a self-conscious person using the substance, it reduces that background noise of the mind, which has all these ideas about who I am, what's happening, right? The constant commentary, which is at times and often wildly inaccurate as well, right? So alcohol, these things, they take away or they reduce the sense of self. And at the same time have some very often negative consequences. I'm only laughing for myself because I've had a long history with substances, but I know for many, right? A hangover perhaps on a mild end, or addiction on the deep end, right? Patterns ends up becoming repetitive ways to escape, and it doesn't really cure the root, the source of the problem, which is being constantly enwrapped and enveloped in this sense of self, which persists. So what I want to suggest is that people are not coming from an ingenuine place, right? It's from a sense of like, something feels off. I can't really be natural, be myself with this constant nagging in the background of my mind. So they turn to substances. But in fact, the real medicine for the mind and for the heart is what we call samadhi, meditative concentration, absorption, or the unification of mind. There's a natural way to reduce our attachment to our sense of self, and this is through mindfulness of breathing. So this is the real medicine for the mind, and there's no hangover. There's no addiction to it. In fact, the more it's practiced, the more effective it is on a long-term regular basis. And what studies have shown in people who have done this practice for long periods of time is a reduction of what we call the default mode network in the brain, which is the self. What the mind goes to when it's not absorbed or really into something, the mind always picks this thing back up, which is the proliferating, right? It's constant. These are the things that lead to anxiety and depression, these ruminating thoughts and ideas about who I am, what's happening in my life. These are the things that keep us trapped. And so in this process of mindfulness of breathing, we're actually discovering the true capacity of the mind. The capacity of the mind to not be caught, to not be trapped, and to find a balance, a freedom, and an equanimity. And it just takes time and practice. Doesn't take any money, doesn't take any outside substances. And I wanted to offer a metaphor for this. I was in Thailand over this last summer. I was lucky enough to spent some time practicing there at one of the Thai forest monasteries. But before I went in, I went on a kayaking trip just along the shores of one of the beaches. And I paddled into this little cove where I was protected. There was like large rocks in the water around me, but I could paddle kind of in and out of this area. And I kind of paddled in and I just started floating in the center of it. And it was this beautiful experience where the waves would kind of push me this way, push me that way, but with a little gentle paddling, I could stay balanced in the middle of this beautiful kind of protected cove, some cliffs overhanging me. It felt very safe. I wasn't going to get swept out to sea. And it reminded me of this is how mindfulness of breathing works. It's not that we're going out to get something external, but we're staying centered. And through this little paddling I was doing to stay balanced in this place, this is what we can do in mindfulness of breathing. Noticing when the mind is rushing out and bringing it back to center. So we're staying centered in balance, not trying to discover anything outside of ourselves, perhaps. So in this series, this can be a practice that can go incredibly deep, and I also want to make it very accessible for folks. So whatever stage of meditation you're at, I'm going to try to make it approachable and helpful as we move through the entire, what they call the 16 steps of mindfulness of breathing. And these were, like I said, these were actually the Buddha's main practice and one of his main teachings as well. And so these progressive steps can lead toward deeper and deeper states of concentration and also freedom of the mind. This is the main practice of it, right? Samadhi and meditative concentration is not only for the purpose of being concentrated, but it brings greater clarity and release from these habitual patterns that keep us trapped. Through seeing things like the impermanence of our thoughts, of what's happening around us, the mind can begin to release from the perpetual patterns of trying to get things just right. So my goal is to support anyone in their own practice in this series, and I invite you to come along. So now I will do a brief 15-minute meditation, and this will be consistent through each of these videos. I'll do a short talk at the beginning, maybe 5-7 minutes, and then we'll do about a 15-minute guided sit. So wherever you're sitting right now, just finding an upright posture. The instructions say at the root of a tree, but since most of us are not at the root of a tree, allowing your body to be upright like a tree. This isn't forced. Maybe feel like the spine is almost dangling from a string. And if it feels comfortable for you, you can close your eyes. And to begin, just setting the intention for this next 15 minutes to allow the thinking mind, any proliferation of thoughts, to just be in the background and bringing our direct attention to sensations of breathing and the body to the foreground. This is a great gift to offer ourselves, the opportunity to be still, to set that intention to just be present in the body and the breath. And we're allowing the breath to just be natural. And allowing the out-breath to soften and release any tension in the physical body, in the forehead, the shoulders, releasing any grip of the self. Having to be someone all the time can be exhausting. So just allowing the gentle rhythm of the breath to soften and open the mind and the body from any clinging, any holding on. Softening the belly and feeling the support of the legs and the ground beneath us. Sensing the contact points with the cushion or the chair where the sit bones meet. All the while with this rhythm of the breath, just giving the mind something to do when it wants to think. I see you, busy mind. Here's your task for the moment. Just watching the breath for the full length of the inhalation and the exhalation. Now opening up to just a wide sense of the body. Is it possible to feel the entire body right now? Always with the rhythm of the breath, guiding and supporting the mind to stay present. Just receiving the breath in the whole body. And checking in on posture. Is there any leaning forward or backwards? Allowing the shoulders to just release back if they've hunched at all. Just noticing the quality of your mind now. This is a practice, and we don't expect the mind to be perfect or to obey exactly what we want it to do. Instead, we just continually set our intention to be present for the breath, for this body, and allow the thinking mind to just bead off of experience like drops of water. Or like wisps of clouds moving through the sky. Nothing really there to hold on to. Noticing any release at the end of each out breath. How the body kind of lets go a little bit. Just leaning into that release as we soften and calm the body. Offering the mind, the heart, and the body the medicine which it so longs for. Just the ease and the peace of being balanced, centered, and present. And allowing this breath to be the through line, the thread which weaves through our experience and keeps the mind here. Noticing any space in the mind, or if the mind feels agitated, just recognizing it and folding experience back into the breath and into release. This is the ongoing theme in mindfulness of breathing, letting go, releasing, and staying centered here. Just like paddling in a protective cove of water, when the mind wants to rush out into proliferation, we just gently paddle to keep ourselves balanced and centered. Right here, there's no need to rush out. The happiness that the mind is looking for, trying to find it in thoughts, it's actually already here. This is the true joy the joy of release, the joy of letting go. So simple, yet also incredibly profound. The beauty of a mind which is still. Not dependent on any affirmations from the external world, but balanced and composed in itself. So thank you for taking the time to sit, to listen, and most importantly, to do the practice. This is not only beneficial for ourselves, but for those around us, so that we can be more present for those that we care about. Because ultimately, this is what meditation is for, right? Not just for personal benefit, but for the benefit of all beings. So I hope this was beneficial for you, and if you're interested in pursuing this entire series of Mindfulness of Breathing, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel or just to keep coming back, and I'll be posting one video every week. Thank you. Be well.